I'm going to talk about a very common pitching problem amongst youth baseball players. This common pitching problem revolves around the pitcher's arm action. Way too often, after the pitcher takes the ball out of his glove and then the arm action continues into a circular action. Once the pitcher starts raising his hand and bringing his hand closer to the body, too often it's the case the pitcher's upper body, meaning the pitcher's shoulders, chest, the pitcher's torso, has not begun rotating. This is a very common problem with youth baseball pitchers. Pitching with this throwing pattern, this arm action, is a huge red flag. When you use this type of arm action, you're limiting the body from getting into a stretch reflex position. When you create this type of arm action, you have less elastic energy. Remember, pitchers don't hurt their arm over one bad throw. Arm injuries occur over the accumulated effect of bad throws. Fixing this pitching arm action problem is very important. And let me just tell you humbly, with years of experience, it doesn't come easy. First of all, the best way of remedying this pitching arm action problem is to work with us directly, face to face, in person, or through FaceTime sessions, or if you choose, we can use the Coach Now app. Here's what we want to do. After you have ball separation from the glove and your arm is making this circular action, and hopefully you already know how to create elastic energy in the shoulder as you remove the ball from the glove. Once the throwing hand gets to the level of the armpit, it's time for the torso, the shoulders, the chest to take over and go into rotational mode. Once the hand gets to the armpit level, it's as if though the pitcher is a pro wrestler. And just as a pro wrestler lifts up his opponent to body slam onto the mat, that's what the pitcher does with his upper body. This rotation is quick and violent, and when it's timed properly, the arm rides the rotation. When timed properly, it's high velocity with low effort. The pitcher becomes like a surfer on a big wave. As the surfer catches the big wave, the surfboard is just along for the ride. Another piece of this arm action correction has to deal with the coronal line. This is a line if you draw across your collarbone that divides your body from the front to the back. In 2013, I stood up at a question and answer forum at the American Baseball Coaches Association conference in Chicago, Illinois. I challenged the pitching experts that were on the panel. In 2013, it was common thinking in the pitching culture to discourage pitchers from taking their hand behind the coronal line. It was common belief amongst doctors and pitching coaches that if you take your hand behind the coronal line, you'll end up with a pitching injury. Having watched pitchers who throw with high velocity, I knew our pitching community was behind the times. Now, over a decade later, our pitching community has changed their opinion about the coronal line and now actually encourages pitchers to get their hand behind the coronal line and create what they call daylight. In essence, when you create daylight, you're creating a stretch reflex, you're creating more elastic energy. When you do this, you're taking stress, trauma, and tension away from the arm. So in a nutshell, there you have it. Number one, when your hand gets to the armpit level, start throwing, start rotating. And number two, on the way up to the armpit, start creating daylight behind your neckline. I'm Dave Kirilloff with the Kirilloff Baseball School. Start training with us today, and let's help our players to be the best players they can be while they're still young.